In a lot of ways, it's kind of neat in the design part because that's where I started, was more in the design arena. And when I first started, we were doing earthwork calculations using the perimeter, and there were even some slide rules around in the desks. And just through the process, I know that even in computer programs, the old Fortran, when I was a bridge designer, you'd have to go in and you'd write the numbers on the sheet, and then you'd go to a machine, a mainframe machine, and type that in. And then I'd have to go down to the IS division where all the big, huge servers were in a room, pick up my printout, and then find out that I had input something wrong. And that just set you back hours or even days, depending on how many people were submitting all of this. And today, with the CAD, we're able to draw quicker, faster, and I used to draw my designs. I was a bridge design engineer. You used to draw them on the sheets, then take them and give them to the draftspeople who would do the appropriate line widths and the appropriate items. They'd give them back to us to review, and then it was days and weeks. And now everything's a lot quicker with technology, and even in the construction capabilities, just the types of materials that we've used, or the construction practices where you can go out, remove a slab on Interstate 80 in our state, and then have somebody come back and put it in overnight, and you're opening it up to traffic. That's tremendous. Just everything's got to be quicker, faster, and I think that's where we've gone as a state, and even as a nation with other states doing that. To me, that's why I love Nevada. A little biased because I was born there, but I think that Nevada represents what a lot of states have. That we have the major rural areas, just like you said, driving vast miles to get to one place to another, and then the major urban areas. But we also have extremes, such as the extreme heat in Las Vegas and the extreme temperature changes in northern Nevada. So the technology of that is learning from the original SHARP program, and eventually hope to learn from the SHARP 2 program that is under development now. But what sort of materials mixes to address the freeze thaw, to address the change in the climate. Also striping. Just because of the challenges and the goals and the temperatures, striping and signing are two of the biggest items that I think technology has had some great innovation in, because those are the cheapest, easiest things that you can put down for driver education, driver safety, understanding where to go. If people can see the signs, they're not going to put on their brakes to stop and then cause congestion behind. So there's little things that can be done, and so that's where I think technology and innovation and people just getting out there, our crews getting out there, making sure that the signing is good, making sure that the striping is good, making sure that the roads are okay. And so I think that's some of the big challenges that we have, and it's pretty exciting. That's the $1 million question, and if I could answer it, I'd be making $1 million. It just the challenges that we have, or just in general, is I believe, very strongly believe, that when you invest in transportation, you don't grow government. A lot of people it's like we want to make government smaller. Transportation doesn't grow government. When I have more money to deal with as a state transportation director, I'm not going to suddenly increase my staff that work for the Department of Transportation. I'm going to hire firms. I'm going to put other people to work. And that's what it does. Investment in transportation puts people to work, whether it's the design folks, whether it's the inspection folks, whether it's the contractors, or all the people that even supply the product to the contractors. It puts people to work. And you have a product at the end of the day that the public can see what their investment went towards. And so, but how to do that? The challenge that we have as state DOTs or any municipality is that they're not going to let guardrails stand undone. They're not going to let a pothole be undone. They're not going to let a road fall apart. We don't do that. We address the issue. If there's graffiti on a sign, we're going to clean it up. We're going to figure out a way to do it. We always do, because we're public servants and we're going to do what's right for the users of the system. But the other challenge to that is that we're not keeping up. That right now we're addressing it, but the bill's going to come due at the end of the day, where 10 years from now, if I as the state of Nevada can't maintain my system to the measure that it needs to be maintained today, it's going to keep getting worse. Today I'd rather do a 2-inch overlay than a roadbed mod. If I don't act on it now, I'm going to be doing a roadbed mod at 8 times the cost and twice as much impact to the public. So those are costs that I don't think the public sees or even realizes it, because we're trying to address the real needs today. How do we do that? A lot of, it's talk about, well, raising gas tax. There just isn't the appetite. My governor in Nevada, and I know that many other governors across, even the president, they've said we're not going to raise the gas tax. There's other, maybe looking at a different way to collect money, such as a sales tax instead of a gas tax, or such as indexing to inflation, or vehicle miles traveled is kind of a neat way, but it's still something that's got to be looked at in the long term. And you really have to look at it, because right now there's a lot of talk of fuel efficient cars, a lot of talk of electric cars, which is great for the economy, great thing, but those 100 fuel efficient cars take up just as much room as 100 gas guzzling vehicles. And they're on the road, they need the signs, they need the striping, they need the maintenance of the road. So how do you capture that? And so I think that there's a lot of innovation, and a lot of people will start to be looking at that, because pretty soon we're not going to be able to keep up in taking the garbage off the interstate, and we're not, those are the first things that people are going to see. My road's in a lot more disrepair. Do something. And when people, the states or others, start saying we really can't, I don't have the money, that's when it'll start becoming into a crisis. It's just too bad it has to become a crisis before we start really looking at the solutions. That's an excellent question, and I know that as part of SCORE, I was very fortunate enough to be chair of SCORE, and all the research would come in for how should we fund today's research needs. We took a bunch of money. I mean, $5 million is a very big bunch of money, and said, you know what, let's start looking out there. What is the world going to look like 10, 20, 50 years out there? Look at what it looked like 50 years ago, even a year ago. Big changes. So we need to actually start. We don't have the answers, but let's kind of set ourselves up for what could it look like. So as part of that research, brought in a whole bunch of futurists to say, okay, what should we talk about? So much that's gone into the transportation benefits have come from other things, such as space exploration or even medicine exploration. Driver behavior is going to be a big item. How do you address that? So doing research projects to really look, to see, get ideas, what is it going to look like? Personally, I think there's going to be less responsibility on the driver, which kind of could be a good thing, because people want to do work, and you can kind of see it now when there's a push to be on a train or a push to be on a bus, and if you have the internet and if you have this stuff, if I can get from point A to point B and be able to do work without having to be stressed about driving or this or that, or worry about parking or anything like that, then that's something that I would look at. So that's why I think it'll be more of taking the drivers away from the decision making. But that being said, you've got the western states. They're not, a lot of people, you have to give up independence. That's another factor, is will you get that change in doing that? So it's kind of seeing where it goes, but it could be really pretty neat.